Good morning. Thank you for joining me in this morning mindfulness practice. Let's take a moment to get centered. Take a deep breath in. Let that go. And as you let go, allow anything that's bothering you to leave your mind, to just settle in and spend the next half hour with me. Yesterday, I was talking about we become what we think about all day long. That means we have to stop telling the old story, because if we give meaning to how we understand situations, and suffering is optional. So if we become what we think about all day long, we create what we envision. So you want to start to embody the spirit of what you really want. You want to get into the spirit of light, love, joy, peace, whatever you want to experience in your life. You must become that version of you. You must get into the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Allow your body to relax and spend a few moments feeling what it would be like to be what you want, to be at peace, to really attract love, to already have all the money that's necessary to live the way you truly desire. What would your most important relationships be like? Pick one thing and just focus on what that would be like to be the way you want it to be. How happy, healthy, wealthy you look and feel. I want to tell you the story of Genevieve Behrend, and how she says, how I attracted to myself $20,000. Now, she wrote this book, a long time ago, maybe in the 1920s or 30s, no, 1929. So this chapter I'm reading is from her book, Your Invisible Power. Genevieve Behrend says, in the laboratory of experience, in which my newly revealed relation to the divine operation was to be tested, the first problem was a financial one. My income was a stipulated one, quite enough for my everyday needs, but it did not seem sufficient to enable me to go comfortably to England, where the great Thomas Troward lived. She wanted to remain there for an indefinite period of time to study with such a great teacher that she assumed he must be. So before inquiring whether Troward even took pupils, or whether I would be eligible in case he did, I began to use the paragraph of Troward's that I had memorized. Daily, in fact, almost hourly, the words were in my mind. My mind is a center of divine operation, and divine operation means expansion into something better than what has gone before. From the Edinburgh Lectures written by Thomas Troward, Genevieve says, I had read something about the law of attraction, and from the chapter on causes and conditions, I had gleaned a vague idea of visualizing. So every night before going to sleep, I made a mental picture of the desired $20,000, which seemed necessary to go study with Troward. 20 imaginary $1,000 bills I counted over and over each night in my bedroom. And then, with the idea of more emphatically impressing my mind with the fact that this $20,000 was for the purpose of going to England and studying with Troward, I wrote out my picture. I saw myself buying my steamer ticket, walking up and down the ship's deck from New York to London, and finally, I saw myself accepted as Troward's pupil. This process was repeated every morning and every evening, always impressing more and more fully upon my mind Troward's memorized statement. My mind is a center of divine operation. The divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression. And this means the production of something beyond what has gone before, something entirely new, not included in the past experience, though proceeding out of it by an orderly sequence of growth. Therefore, since the divine cannot change its inherent nature, it must operate in the same manner with me. Consequently, in my own special world, of which I am the center, it will move forward to produce new conditions, always in advance of any that have gone before. My mind is a center of divine operations. I endeavored to keep this statement in the back part of my consciousness all the time, with no thought in my mind of how the money might be obtained. Probably the reason why there was no thought of the avenues through which the money might reach me was because I could not possibly imagine where the $20,000 would come from. So I simply held my thoughts steady and let the power of attraction find its own ways and means. One day, while walking on the street, taking deep breathing exercises, the thought came, my mind is surely a center of divine operation. If God fills all space, then God must be in my mind also. If I want this money to study with Troward that I may know the truth of life, then both the money and the truth must be mine, though I'm still unable to feel or see the physical manifestation of either. Still, I declared, it must be mine. While these reflections were going on in my mind, there seemed to come up from within me the thought, I am all the substance there is. Then from another channel in my brain, the answer seemed to come, of course, that's it. Everything must have its beginning in mind. The idea must contain itself within, the idea must contain within itself the only one and primary substance there is. And this means money as well as everything else. My mind accepted this idea, and immediately all the tension of mind and body was relaxed. The idea must contain within itself the only one and primary substance there is. And this means money as well as everything else. There was a feeling of absolute certainty of being in touch with all the power life has to give. All thought of money, teacher, or even my own personality vanished in the great wave of joy which swept over my entire being. I walked on and on with this feeling of joy steadily increasing and expanding until everything about me seemed aglow with resplendent light. Every person I passed appeared illuminated, as was I. All consciousness of personality had disappeared, and in its place there came that great and almost overwhelming sense of joy and contentment. That night, when I made my picture of the $20,000, it was with an entirely changed aspect. On previous occasions, when making my mental picture, I had felt that I was waking up with something within myself. This time, there was no sensation of effort. Then, in an almost unexpected manner from a source of which I had no consciousness at the time, there seemed to open a possible avenue through which the money might reach me. At first, it took great effort not to be excited. It all seemed so wonderful, so glorious to be in touch with supply. But Troward had cautioned his readers to keep all excitement out of their minds in the first flush of realization of union with infinite supply, and to treat this fact as a perfectly natural result which had been reached through our demand. This was even more difficult for me than it was to hold the thought that all substance there is, I am, I, whatever the idea is, am the beginning of all form, visible or invisible. Just as soon as there appeared a circumstance which indicated the direction through which the $20,000 might come, I not only made a supreme effort to regard the indicated direction calmly as the first sprout of the seed I had sown in the absolute, but left no stone unturned to follow up that direction, thereby fulfilling my part. By doing so, one circumstance seemed naturally to lead to another and another until, step by step, my desired $20,000 was secured. To keep my mind poised and free from excitement was my greatest effort. This first concrete fruition of my study of mental science as expounded by Troward's book had come by a careful following of the methods he had outlined. In this connection, therefore, I can offer to the reader no better gift than to quote Troward's book, the Edinburgh Lectures, from which may be derived a complete idea of the line of action I was endeavoring to follow. In the chapter on causes and conditions, Troward says, "To get good results, we must properly understand our relation to the great impersonal power we are using. It is intelligent, and we are intelligent, and the two intelligences must cooperate. We must not fly in the face of the law, expecting it to do for us what it can only do through us, and we must therefore use our intelligence with the knowledge that it is acting as the instrument of a greater intelligence. And because we have this knowledge, we may and should cease from all anxiety as to the final result. Meaning, if you trust, if you believe, if you understand, there is a higher intelligence, God. If you have faith and understanding, you can let go of any anxiety and worry about how it's going to come about. You leave that to God, to universal intelligence, to the source of all. The how is none of your business. You just focus on feeling and thinking about what it is that you desire. In actual practice, we must first form the ideal conception of our object with the definite intention of impressing it upon the universal mind. It is this thought that takes such thought out of the region of mere casual fancies, and then affirm that our knowledge of the law is sufficient reason for a calm expectation of a corresponding result. I'm going to say that sentence over. In actual practice, we must first form the ideal conception of our object with the definite intention of impressing it upon the universal mind. It is this thought that takes such thought out of the region of mere casual fancies, and then affirm that our knowledge of the law is sufficient reason for a calm expectation of a corresponding result, and that therefore all necessary conditions will come to us in due order. We can then turn to the affairs of our daily life with the calm assurance that the initial conditions are either there already or will soon come into view. If we do not at once see them, let us rest content with the knowledge that the spiritual prototype is already in existence and will wait till some circumstance pointing in the desired direction begins to shop itself. It may be a very small circumstance, but it is the direction and not the magnitude which is to be taken into consideration. As soon as we see it, we should regard it as the first sprouting of the seed sown in the absolute, and do calmly and without excitement whatever the circumstances seem to require. And then later on, we shall see that this doing will in turn lead to further circumstance in the same direction until we find ourselves conducted step by step to the accomplishment of our object. In this way, the understanding of the great principle of the law of supply will, by repeated experiences, deliver us more and more completely out of the region of anxious thought and toilsome labor, and bring us into a new world where the useful employment of all our powers, whether mental or physical, will only be an unfolding of our individuality upon the lines of its own nature, and therefore a perpetual source of health and happiness. A sufficient inducement, surely, to the careful study of the laws governing the relation between the individual and the universal mind. Genevieve says, "To my mind then as now," this quotation outlines the core and center of the method and manner of approach necessary for coming in touch with infinite supply. At least it, together with the previous quoted statement, my mind is a center of divine operation, etc., constituted the only apparent means of attracting to myself the $20,000. My constant endeavor to get into the spirit of these statements and to attract to myself this needed sum took about 6 weeks, at the end of which time I had in my bank the required $20,000. This could be made into a long story, giving all the details, but the facts, as already narrated, will give you a definite idea of the magnetic condition of my mind while the $20,000 was finding its way to me. It took 6 weeks, but in that time, Genevieve Behrend decided she got into the practice of thinking and imagining what she wanted, imagining it so often, so powerfully, so focused, so clearly that she could see in her imagination $21,000 bills. And then she imagined herself buying the ticket to the steamship to cross the ocean from New York to England. She imagined herself being on the steamship, walking up and down the boardwalk. She saw herself being Thomas Troward's pupil. And then she got ideas, and then she took action as she kept imagining what she wanted, as she kept seeing herself already having her goal, already being in Thomas Troward's home, studying with him. Ideas came to her and she took action on them. So she doesn't tell us how the $20,000 arrived in her bank account. She tells us what she did to get into the state of being to attract it. And that's our job, to get clear on what we want, to decide it's already here, it's ours, it's mine. This is what I want. This is how I'm gonna feel. I know that it's mine. And in a matter of time, it will find its way to me. Imagine that what you want is already on its way to you. My mind is a center of divine operation. The divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression, and this means the production of something beyond what has gone before, something entirely new, not included in the past experience, though proceeding out of it by an orderly sequence of growth. Therefore, since the divine cannot change its inherent nature, it must operate in the same manner with me. Consequently, in my own special world, of which I am the center, it will move forward to produce new conditions, always in advance of any that have gone before. Whatever you desire, desires you. Get into that state of already being that. How would you be once you have your wish fulfilled? That beautiful desire It's yours. It's here. It's now. How are you feeling? You might take the time to visualize it already done, to get yourself into that energetic state of already being there. It's normal, it's natural, it's already true in your physical world. And then write about it. You can grab a pen and paper and do some free writing and just let the words flow out. When you get into a state of already being what you desire and take pen to paper, it's almost as if a divine hand is guiding you. Words will flow out onto the page that you never even thought of before. It's like you can't even stop the pen from writing. It's not magic, it's getting into that state of already being what you want. What is your identity now that you have your goal accomplished? Write about it. Not type, not put it into your computer, cell phone, or typewriter, but actually your hand guiding the pen onto a piece of paper. There is a neural connection between your mind and the pen, and as you write, allow the positive language to flow, providing detail of what it is you desire and how wonderful you feel now that it's yours. You know it to be true. You don't have to worry about how it happened because it's here now. Tell me in present tense what it's like. You might reread it, and when ideas come to you, write them down. That's what happened to Genevieve B. Rand. The ideas flowed to her when she was in the state of already being what she wanted. And she was able to attract the $20,000 that she needed back in the 1920s to travel to Thomas Troward's home in England. Whatever you want wants you. You just need to be in the same energetic vibration, in harmony, in the feeling as if it's already done. Do some free writing, create a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me in this morning mindfulness practice. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 7. Thank you.